Hey everybody, welcome back to Smart Robots Review, the show that reviews robotics and fantastic tech from around the world and out of this world. I'm your host Elias, and this is day 2 of my trip here at Cape Canaveral, Florida, NASA Kennedy Space Center to cover the Falcon 9 rocket that's going to launch tomorrow with a TESS mission. So this is what you're about to see is the mission briefing presented here today at the Kennedy Space Center. I broke it down into 4 parts. It's very large, but it will be in 4K. So enjoy it, a lot of great information, more to come. And also I want to make sure I thank my sponsors for this trip, jlcpcb.com, where you can prototype PCBs for only $2 and get them delivered to your home. So anyway, check them out please. They're a great vendor and enjoy the presentation. It is in 4 parts, so make sure you watch 2, 3, and 4. Enjoy.
Just a quick pitch before we get started. We have some really great guests here to talk to you today. This is a very busy year for NASA's launch service program here at Kennedy Space Center and also at Vandenberg Air Force Base. We have 6 missions launching on 6 different launch vehicles from 6 different locations this year, and TESS is the second one in our beautiful launches this year. It's the most that the launch services program has done since 2003. And this is also our 20th anniversary of the Launch Services Program being here at Kennedy, supporting our agency customers. So there's a pitch for the Launch Services Program. We're proud to be here at Kennedy Space Center. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce Mr. Chris Scolese, the Goddard Space Flight Center Director. Chris?
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. First, I want to start off by saying, one of the things that NASA is really known for is our ability to partner with multiple organizations and to work together. Well, Bob Cabana normally does the welcome, but he got a pretty bad cold and he lost his voice. And Bob is the director of the Kennedy Space Center. So for the Kennedy Space Center and the Goddard Space Flight Center, welcome to the TESS launch. We're all excited about that. Before we get started, I just want to have a show of hands. How many of you have spouses or friends or children who have worked on the TESS project? Okay, well, what I want to say to you is thank you. Conceiving a mission and building a mission can sometimes be frustrating. And oftentimes, the person who's working on it doesn't come home when they're supposed to. They come home grumpy sometimes. If it wasn't for, your support, believe me, these missions wouldn't get done as quickly and as effectively and be as successful as they are. So I'd ask you to give yourselves a round of applause for all that you've done to make TESS possible. Okay, so having said that, here so I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to do Kennedy and Goddard. So I'm going to start off with Kennedy first. Okay, so at the Kennedy Space Center, the Launch Services Program does most of our launches for NASA missions. And as you can see behind me, there's 6 missions that are coming up, and you kind of get the spectrum of everything that happens here. Many of them are Goddard missions, which is good because it makes it easy for me to explain what's going on. But they cover a range of activities. So the first launch this year was GOES-S, now GOES-17, which is a weather satellite that sits in geosynchronous orbit. When you see pictures of the Earth with weather, it's coming from one of those geosynchronous satellites, and it helps us determine what the weather's going to be, which is critically important, particularly for today and tomorrow, because we want to roll out a rocket that has TESS on it, and we need to know what the weather is going to be so that we can do that effectively and efficiently. The good news is it's going to be bad today. That's bad news. But the good news is it's supposed to clear out tonight about midnight, and we should have good weather for a launch tomorrow. TESS is the second launch scheduled for this year. And of course, you're going to hear all about that, so I won't spend a lot of time talking about TESS. We have Dr. Ricker and Vicki who will be talking about TESS, which is a really exciting mission to go off and search for exoplanets outside of our solar system. ISAT 2 believe it or not, that follows ISAT, is to go off and measure the ice sheets of the Earth so that we can understand what's going on. And that launches out of Vandenberg Air Force Base, not here from Florida. And then we have ICON, which is to go off and study how the sun interacts with the Earth's atmosphere. And that's launched out of Kwajalein on a rocket that gets dropped from an airplane called a Pegasus. And that's later this year as well. InSight also launches from Vandenberg, and one of the few times that we launch a mission to Mars from Vandenberg Air Force Base in California. And it's going to go off and measure Mars quakes so that we can understand what the interior structure of Mars looks like. And then Parker Solar Probe, that's a really neat one. That mission is being developed by APL, Advanced Physics Laboratory, part of Johns Hopkins University and the Goddard Space Flight Center. And it's actually going to be the closest man-made object to fly near the sun. It's going to be about 4 solar radii, is as close as it's going to get to the sun. So it's going to get very hot. And it's going to go very fast so that we don't spend a lot of time there. And then, of course, there's TESS, which is, like I said, tomorrow. I kind of covered the spectrum of what happens in the launch services program. But the other portion of what Kennedy does, and you'll come down here next year, and you've probably taken a tour and you've seen the big tower that's out there. We hope to launch the Space Launch System with Orion on an uncrewed mission at the end of next year. And that's the beginning of taking humans beyond low Earth orbit again. For the last 45 years, we've spent our time in low Earth orbit since Apollo, and since the early 2000s, the late 1990s, we've continuously had people orbiting our planet, off of our planet, living in space. That all started from here with the shuttle, and now we're getting ready to go beyond low Earth orbit. In addition, one of the things that I mentioned at the very beginning that NASA prides itself on is our partnerships, and we have all kinds of partnerships. Here at the Kennedy Space Center, one of them is commercial cargo and commercial crew. So in order to keep the space station resupplied, we use commercial vehicles to take cargo to the space station and bring trash back from the space station, and sometimes bring experiments back from the space station. Now we're going to start bringing people up from, again, the Kennedy Space Center to take crews to and from the International Space Station. Today we do that on the Russian Soyuz vehicle. So lots of things go on there. In addition, now I'll go into the Goddard Space Flight Center, which focuses principally on science missions, like the missions up here, like TESS. And we're looking forward to a very exciting year, and we're looking forward to a very exciting few years to come with some really interesting science missions like the ones I mentioned here, the James Webb Space Telescope to look deeper into space at galaxy formation and to look for planets outside of our solar system. When I was growing up, the only planets outside of our solar system you read in books or you saw on Star Trek or Star Wars. Now we know they exist. And as you're going to hear in a little bit, when you hear about TESS, not only are we looking for planets outside of our solar system, but we're trying to look for planets that could support life. And when you put all of the pieces together in our astronomy portfolio of missions, you see the progression going from the early missions, including Hubble, to Kepler, to TESS, to James Webb Space Telescope, to future astrophysics missions that are going to probe deeper into space to understand the fabric of the universe, and to probe deeper into those other aspects of the universe to find those planets that could potentially harbor life. So with that, I'll say thank you again, and a couple of things. How many of you, is this your first launch? Okay, so don't waste your time taking pictures. You're going to get pictures galore. If nothing else, you could pick them up off the internet. watching a rocket launch is really a neat thing, and to really get that experience, if you're looking through your phone or you're looking through a camera lens, you're going to miss it. You're going to be some of the people who are closest to the rocket of anybody else. Some within 3 miles, 4 miles. We don't like you to get much closer than that. You know, it's not a good place to be. Not because we expect something bad to happen, but because there's a lot of energy in that rocket, and it puts a big pressure wave, and you'll get to feel that. So you really want to take the time to watch the rocket and watch it go all the way up into space. It's a really neat experience. And finally, one of the last things that we do at all of these briefings, we have a tradition, and what we say is, go the name of the rocket and go the name of the mission. So for this one, we say, I would like you to say, go Falcon 9, go TESS. But you got to say it really loud so everybody in the visitor center can hear it. So are you ready? Okay. Go Falcon 9, go TESS. Thank you all.